The opposite to being insulin sensitive is obviously being insulin resistant, which is what we don't want. Insulin resistance is sort of linked with heart disease, inflammation within sort of blood vessels, NAFLD, which is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, Alzheimer's, you name it, the list goes on. To me, sort of controlling insulin sensitivity in a human being is one of the 4 most important things we can be doing for our health. What's going on, guys? It's Jacob, Sunday Lifters. Welcome to my new mini-series that I am calling Benign Intervention. The idea behind this mini-series is I'm going to talk about prescription drugs that I have sort of done a lot of research into, that I am sort of going to be able to sort of speak about from an anecdotal perspective, since these are all things that I've decided to take. I think it's really important to say on this video in particular, despite the fact that I have the sort of thing come up at the start, I have no medical credentials. I'm not a doctor. I'm not saying that I think you should do this. What I'm going to do is sort of offer a sort of, a lot of this is not even going to be a perspective. Actually, it's going to be the actual factual information on the drug that we're speaking about. Its sort of uses, its properties, its dosage, and also its side effect profile. I'm going to be objective about all of this, and I will use studies that I will cite in the description below as always. However, toward the end, I will sort of give a more personal and anecdotal account from sort of using this myself. So without further ado, let's get into today's prescription drug. Before we go any further, drop this video a like. It is always hugely appreciated. A comment, subscribe, anything like that. Let's get into this. So today's prescription drug we're going to talk about is Metformin. Metformin is currently the 4th most prescribed drug in the US. I believe it might be the 5th. You might have to fact check me on that one. I think it is 4th. But essentially what Metformin is, it is been approved by the FDA as a prescription drug that is used to sort of treat blood glucose levels and sort of control sort of gluconeogenesis within the liver. That's basically just the creation of glucose that ends up, sort of getting into our blood. It is, pretty much exclusively prescribed to pre-diabetics or currently diagnosed diabetics. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go down a sort of list of sort of primary targets or bodily sort of systems that Metformin directly sort of interfaces with, and sort of what it is again approved by the FDA for in sort of pre and existing diabetics. First of all, like I've sort of touched on briefly, it's going to stop gluconeogenesis. It's just the creation of glucose within the liver that eventually, sort of downstream will be sort of, entering the blood on a systemic level. So it's going to reduce the systemic level of glucose within the blood. It's also, a downstream effect of that is that the intestines are going to sort of absorb a lot less glucose. We want to remain as sort of insulin sensitive as possible throughout our lives. The opposite to being insulin sensitive is obviously being insulin resistant, which is what we don't want. Insulin resistance is sort of linked with heart disease, inflammation within sort of blood vessels, NAFLD, which is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, Alzheimer's, you name it, the list goes on. To me, sort of controlling insulin sensitivity in a human being is one of the 4 most important things we can be doing for our health and longevity, to ensure that we do live a long and healthy life. The last sort of major benefit in regard to sort of insulin control, or what Metformin is approved by the FDA for, would be that we sort of when taking Metformin, there's an increase amount of glucose that actually will get stored in the muscles as glycogen. When our body gets that energy, it can basically do three things with it. It can turn it into fat or adipose tissue, it can use it there and then as energy, or it can store it as glycogen in the muscles, essentially making it stored energy. That is going to be sort of a process that is enhanced and improved by metformin, so that is another sort of primary purpose of this drug. The great thing about metformin is it doesn't actually interfere or stop insulin secretion. What that means is, and why that's a good thing, is if it did totally stop your sort of insulin secretion, obviously you would end up going hyperglycemic, which is just not good at all. You'll feel like absolute death at that point. So yeah, it stops you going hypoglycemic basically, which is good. Otherwise this drug would be pretty useless. So now we're going to move into the realm of what metformin is not FDA approved for. The main one being anti-aging, and there is current studies going on about metformin's efficacy in regard to anti-aging. One study has literally just been concluded, but takes them about 6 to 9 months to sort of interpret the results, write up the study, the papers, and then get all the approvals. And so realistically you probably won't be seeing the results of that study until late 2022, maybe even 23. But it is certainly exciting stuff. When that happens, whatever point, I'll make sure I cover it, because metformin, it has shown really great promise in regard to anti-aging. A lot of sort of well-known or forefront biohackers, medical doctors, nutritionists, or just people who are sort of generally interested in longevity admit to taking metformin fairly regularly. Depends on the person, obviously everyone's going to have a different protocol, but they admit to taking it for its primary purpose, but also for its anti-aging promise. Now, when we take metformin, what it does is it inhibits the mTOR pathway within us. Now, what the mTOR pathway is basically a nutritional or nutrition sensing pathway that, when inhibited, has shown sort of great promise for increased lifespan and longevity in general. Now, this could be, this area is being studied ongoing, I should say. It's irresponsible to say it's because of this, it's because of that. It's we don't exactly know. These are really complicated sort of biochemical processes. However, we speculate it's due to probably two main things. Number one, when we inhibit mTOR, what we find is that sort of cancer cell angiogenesis is not, theoretically shouldn't happen. Now, angiogenesis is a totally normal bodily process where sort of cells split or blood vessels sort of split, but we don't want that happening in cancer cells because this is how they proliferate. What we also find is, secondly, the sort of inhibition of mTOR seems to have some kind of link to the prevention of Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease, anything sort of neurodegenerative related, but particularly those two diseases. What we also find through the inhibition of mTOR is that sort of insulin-like growth factor 1 is inhibited, and also insulin-like or insulin growth factor 1 signaling pathways are inhibited. And what again, those two things, or combined or even separately, have sort of promising links to cancer prevention. So there's that as well. There's a lot of data out there to support that the sort of methylation process of DNA is effectively what ages us. Mitochondria seem to play a huge role in it as well. But what we can say is metformin seems to restore some kind of youthful methylation process within us, or it seems to sort of act in that way. Essentially what that means is we're going to sort of see a slower sort of process internally of aging. So metformin also seems to have some kind of interaction with the AMPK pathway, that is the adenosine monophosphate activated protein kinase. That is an enzyme that is sort of responsible for sort of the cell energy homeostasis within us, and also sort of like, you know, the sort of uptake in sort of utilization of glucose and fatty acids when you know, sort of energy is low. The reason the AMPK pathway is sort of activated when we have metformin is because it increases the ratio of ADP and ATP. If you don't know what they are, I'll link my creatine video up there, a little card, you can click it, I explain it there, but essentially they're the body's energy currency, right? So it improves the ratio of ADP and ATP in the mitochondrial matrix, and that's going to have some sort of seriously positive downstream effects. But that is the reason the AMPK pathway is activated. So some of the positive or benefits of the activation of the AMPK pathway would include sort of tighter control on gluconeogenesis, which, you know, again is going to be sort of great for keeping you insulin sensitive, which we want to try and be as insulin sensitive as possible, like I said. And finally, the sort of, again, this sort of cancer prevention sort of property it seems to have, where in longitudinal studies actually 30 to 50% of people who were taking metformin had less incidence of cancer against a placebo. So, you know, that again, it's one study. There needs to be way more done into it, but it shows promise. So we've covered off some of the sort of main benefits of metformin there. Let's go over the sort of side effect profile. Now, as I've sort of included it in this video, personally I think the side effect profile is relatively benign, which is great news because the drug itself shows huge promise. There's no sort of significant health or safety concerns. You know, it, like I say, it is FDA approved. It is 4th most prescribed medicine in the US, so hopefully that puts you at ease to some degree. What we tend to find is if people have common side effects to this drug, they get sort of stomach upset, you know, wind, they might have diarrhea. It all seems to be stomach and GI related, like nothing too serious. Now, if we're looking at sort of some of the rarer side effects, some people experience like a sort of, you know, low blood sugar. Some people, you know, sort of experience muscle weakness, which we'll touch on a little bit more later because I've got a bit more to say on that. But the worst sort of side effect people are having, and it tends to only be people with kidney disease who get this happen. Some people have been found to sort of experience lactic acidosis, which is basically what happens when we take metformin is the kidneys clear the drug from our system. Now, if you've got kidney disease, the drug builds up in our system, the kidney's not clearing it, and so a downstream effect of that might be lactic acidosis, which, you know, can be quite, like, you know, it, in this serious instance, could be life-threatening. So that has to be said. I'm thinking the chance, you know, that this is basically what I'm trying to say is that this is an ultra rare side effect, but it has been logged. So another problem with metformin is it could sort of interfere with our absorption of vitamin B12. It's, you know, it's an easy fix. All you need to do is just make sure, if you do decide to do metformin, or it would be advisable, is probably the responsible thing to say, to have a B12 supplement, whether you get it through a multivitamin or a sort of you know, single purpose B12 designed supplement. Either one is fine, but it, you know, it'd probably be advisable to supplement the B12 in if you do decide to take metformin. So earlier on sort of touched on one of the sort of rarer side effects being muscle weakness. Now, metformin has been shown to sort of directly interfere with recovery. So if you are someone who is sort of working out a lot in the gym, you have high bodybuilding aspirations, you know, you're just looking to pack on size, recover as best as possible, it may be worth doing some more research into metformin just to see if it, you know, potentially if it's going to affect your performance, because I know for some people that is, you know, paramount to them. So it's just worth, you know, sort of bringing up now. For me personally, health and longevity sort of trumps, you know, the sort of whole building muscle aesthetic thing. But for others, that might not be the case. I totally respect that. I'm not like having a go at you if you think differently. It's absolutely fine. It's just, you know, something to bear in mind. So what's the takeaway here? Metformin clearly has a lot of benefits, you know, from a longevity standpoint. As always, you've got to weigh up the sort of risks and rewards yourself. Go do your own research on it. You know, don't just watch this video and think that's everything you need to know about metformin. You should always sort of do your own research, which is why I'm going to sort of bring this up here. Obviously, if you're watching this in the UK, you know, I'm pretty sure it's the same in the US, I'm pretty sure it's the same in Canada, metformin is not available over the shelf. You're going to have to get prescribed this. I'm not, and I don't feel comfortable telling you how I got prescribed my metformin. You're going to have a conversation with a doctor, but I'm not telling you to be a dick or anything like that. It's just if you're that bothered about it, you'll figure it out, because you'll have to do extensive research on it to find that shit out. And it's like, I feel like if I don't tell you, you will look into it yourself if you're really that bothered about it. So hopefully you understand I'm doing that from a good place and not just trying to be a dick like, oh, I'm not telling you how to do it. It's not like that. It's just what I believe to be best. So personally, I'm not taking it just for the anti-aging benefits, although that is, you know, sort of great. The most important one for me really is the potential in its sort of cancer prevention. The thing about the anti-aging benefits are the studies are ongoing, and I know the same could be said about the sort of cancer prevention. However, with the anti-aging stuff, there are, you know, sort of numerous things that are sort of already out there that are proven to sort of help in that regard. So it's not a massive thing for me. If I was 60-year-old, you know, I might think differently. I might want to get this in my stack, but you know, I'm not quite there yet. Dosage, some people take as low as like 125 milligrams a day. Again, just for the anti-aging benefit. For its, you know, sort of primary purpose, you know, all the sort of insulin sensitivity stuff and you know, sort of controlling the gluconeogenesis, you normally get it prescribed in a 500 milligram tablet. Some people just take one 500 milligram tablet with their sort of most, you know, their biggest meal or most carb dense meal of the day. Some people take it twice with, you know, their sort of usually breakfast and usually dinner. Some people take up to 4,000 milligrams per day. This is probably more applicable for actual diabetics, however. That is quite an excessive amount. Personally, I take 500 milligrams with a big sort of carb dense meal every now and again. And I don't even do this every day. Personally, it's not something I feel like I need to deploy every day. Just when I'm having big carb dense meals, you know, when I'm fasting and stuff like that, I probably won't have it. If I'm just getting in a calorie deficit, I might still use it occasionally, just because of the benefits of the activation of the AMPK pathway. But, you know, other than that, like I say, my primary purpose is just to keep me nice and insulin sensitive. I want to have it after sort of big, you know, meals, carb dense meals, or cheat meals or cheat days, which I still do occasionally. The downstream health benefits of the sort of inhibition of the mTOR pathway, which we just, you know, sort of went over earlier. The benefits, you know, or the sort of insulin control can have with anti-inflammatory, sort of prevention to heart disease, linked to sort of prevention of neurodegenerative diseases, and also the sort of, like we mentioned earlier, the potential cancer prevention or anti-cancer properties it may have. All of these things, to me, sort of make it worth it based on its side effect profile for me personally. So metformin is now sort of an ongoing staple of my sort of health stack. You know, like I say, I'm not going to be having it every day. I'm sort of going to be deploying it more tactically. Not that there's anything wrong with having 500 milligrams per day. If you've done your own research and you think that's what is best for you, that's absolutely fine. That's just why I use it. If anything, you know, if I change my dose at any point, I'll maybe do a post about it if this video does well and people are interested. You know, another great thing about this is it's cheap to buy, and if you are like me and you sort of using it more sporadically as opposed to every day, it's probably going to last you a long time. So it's not like you're gonna have to buy it every month. But even if you did have to buy it every month after you've got your prescription, it's not that much. I think this is about £16 for like what, 28 tablets in this. I got 2 of them for 56 tablets, so you know that will probably last me about 3 months. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Cheers for sticking with it as always, guys. I really appreciate it. If you did enjoy it, you found it informative, if you agree, disagree, drop a comment, drop a like, hit the bell icon and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, you know, you can follow me on Instagram, it's at Sunday Lifters. I'm on Facebook at Sunday Lifters and Twitter at Sunday Lifters. You can email me at sundaylifters@gmail.com for meal plans, workout plans or online coaching. As always, guys, I will see you here again very soon. Cheers.